Hello, I'm James Helen and welcome back to my Cubase 13 series. In this episode, we're going to be taking a look at the EQ-P1A, one of the brand new EQs within Cubase 13, and I'm going to show you how I've controlled and added warmth to the low end of my mix. So let's jump in and have a look. So here we are with our first P1A. I'm going to use this in two places, on the kick and the Reese sub. So we're going to do this on the sub first, and this content on the sub has no sort of like mids to highs in there. It's just like the low mids and the bass. So this is going to be sort of using one side of the P1A, and then the kick's going to be sort of like using both to create a nice sort of cut through the mix. So with this one, I wanted to scoop out some of the low mids, sort of like the boxy area, if you will, with the P1A, but retaining the warmth and the power, and the P1A does a great job of this. So for now, I'm going to turn on the P1A that I've used in the track, and I'm going to bypass this one, which is a new instance, and I'm going to show you how this works. So let's have a listen first. So you can hear there is a scoop, and it makes it sort of undersling under the track, making and giving the illusion that the bass is a lot lower than what it is. And it's a great little trick that this EQ is very capable of. So moving that off screen, I'm going to bypass it and turn this one back on. So what's going to be happening in this one, we're going to discard this right hand side because we don't have any high information in this sub bass, but we are going to control the lows. So we've got a boost. Does exactly what it says on the tin. Then we've got an attenuator, does exactly what it says. And then we have a low frequency control here from 100 Hertz to 20. So just have a listen to how this affects, and then I'll guide you through what I've done. And we'll use the same bass note as well. So from that, you can hear that the bass has started to sort of like get underslung underneath the track. So if you could hear the rest of the track in context, it sounds like the bass is way subbier and way lower than what it actually is, but it gives you that impression that everything else kind of sits above it, whilst this is sort of humming away on the lower portion of your mix. So with the settings that we've currently got, the boost is too high. It's so you can hear what's going on. I'm going to dial that back in a second. The attenuator sort of enhances the area that you focused on using that low frequency. So you can see when I get to around 60 to 70 Hertz, you can hear those sort of like boxy mids disappear or just kind of get gently shoved down, but whilst retaining a lot of warmth and a lot of body, so width as well, without it sounding too over the top and too powerful. So again, just listen again. When I move this lower frequency back up to 100, you're going to hear those boxy mids return. Now with those like sort of boxy frequencies, they're not too intense, they're not too in your face, but when we couple that up with the keys, it's just a little bit too much and it takes focus away from the keys. But doing this just tidies it up a little bit and gives the keys space to breathe. So let's just listen to them together, and I'll just dial this down. I think I'm going to dial it to about halfway for now. So you can hear from that the keys have a lot of space to work in, and the sub just sounds a little bit better with those boxy frequencies tamed a little bit more. It may be different for your ears, but with what I wanted to do in this track, that works for me, and that's exactly how I wanted it to be. So let's have a look at the EQ-P1A in the context of a kick drum. And we're going to obviously work in tandem with the Reese sub as well, because we've got to take into account kick and bass working together. But for now, let's have an isolated episode where we're going to load in the kick EQ. So you can see with the P1A here, we're making use of the right section as well as this bandwidth control and high attenuator. So let's have a listen to the kick with this off, and you can see in the settings, the kick has got nothing else on this channel, just the P1A. In context with the sub. And bearing in mind the resub would have the effects modulator on as well. So let's just turn on all of them back on so it's how it was originally. So you can see from that the kick is weak, it doesn't have much power in the low end, and it doesn't really sit with the track. But I could hear that the tonal quality of the kick was fine for what I wanted. It was kind of spot on where I needed it to be, but it just needed a little bit of shaping, which is nothing wrong with. Pick the best sample you can that works with the track, and this worked really well. And I could hear that the P1A is going to do a good job with this. So if we take a look at a separate P1A, and we'll keep them side by side this time around so you can see what's happening. Let's have this one first. This is our original. This is our new instance. With that bypassed, we can then start shaping the kick. So we're going to do the same thing with the lows. We're actually going to scoop out some of the mids to really focus on the warmth of the kick, but in a very different way to what we did with the Reese. So we're going to sort of bring out some of the boom of the sound by using these three controls. So you can hear there's a boxy frequency in this kick that I don't need for this track because it's quite mellow and subdued. We need some weight and control. And what this is going to do is bring it in line, get rid of those low frequencies. So about that 50 hertz, 60 hertz area. And you can see that's what we've done here with no attenuation, but we have that extra control if we want to further control it. But now you can hear the attenuator has removed sort of the boom, the warmth, the transient of the kick. So I'm going to keep it about there. And you can see it's roughly the same settings there, just slightly different. But the problem here is the top end. So we've got like a hat on the top of there, and it's invasive. If we listen to that in context with the track right now, the kick is dragging too much attention to it in that sort of mid to high range. So the EQ-P1A is going to really do a good job on removing that. So focusing back on the kick, we can see the high boost frequency is tuned to about 10 kilohertz there. So we're going to tune it to 10 kilohertz, but I'm going to do it whilst it's playing so you can hear if it makes a difference with a bit of boost on. So I'm going to boost it to halfway. So how I'm going to put this across to you is the kick, the hat on the kick seems to have a little bit of delay on it. So it'll hit and then there's an after hit after that initial transient, and this lets it through. When you turn it halfway, it sort of removes, well, sort of attenuates a certain area that I don't want. So we bypass that 7 to 8 to 9 kilohertz. Then once we start jumping into the 10 to 16, you can hear that it sort of brings the hat back, but it removes that after hat. So it's sort of really controlling and tightening it up with the EQ-Q. So around that 7K is starting to sound a bit squelchy, not what I'm looking for. And that sounds quite nice, but I'm going to dial it back to roughly 10 like I have done. and we're in a good position. So I'm going to boost up the highs here to full so we can hear the full effect of this. So obviously that is too high, but you can hear exactly what the EQ is doing, where it's sort of making the move. And then the attenuator comes into action, which is now the controller of the hat and how loud this is going to be, how hard it's going to be. Do we want it a bit softer? And that's what this attenuator is going to do. So that's too much. So I'm going to dial it back till we get a nice little bit of sparkle, but it's not too bright that it distracts us. So then we can just attenuate the output so it's not too loud, because we add a little bit of loudness into the sound. You can see I've attenuated that minus 3.7 there, just because of the extra boost it gives. But we're also looking at the high attenuation frequency control here. We've got it set to 6.3. So you can hear it's bringing out more of that top end of the hat again, just adding a little bit of fizzle, a little bit of gentle crispiness to the sound. I'm going to dial it up a little bit, not too much like I've done here, because I'm sort of happy where it is, but a bit of extra crisp doesn't go unmissed. And there we have it. That is the EQ-P1A, brand new to Cubase 13. The sonic quality of that is out of this world. I use it in a lot of my mixes now, and it really does control, as demonstrated just then, the low end, but also adds punch and helps you gel things together and glue that low end together. So thank you very much for watching. I'm Demis Helen, and I will look forward to seeing you in episode 3. Take care.